the last time you asked yourself, why am I here? No, I'm not talking about the deep spiritual questions. I'm talking about college. Right here, right now. Why are you here? You've been told for almost 2 decades that you need to get an education. In other words, to go to college, so you can get a job, contribute to society, and make money. But is this system working as well as they say? 5 years down the road, what is it that you'll remember? The math equations you memorized, or sitting on the couch with your roommates at 3 in the morning, just after you tried to write the longest paper of your life, and laughing at every single word? It may be human connections within the framework of our university that does the most to change your life for the better. So we need to be careful to not get too caught up in the technicalities of education. In other words, tests. Obama, looking at the statistics of test scores in America compared to Asia, said that we need to become more like Asia. And although I see where Obama is coming from, I don't agree. I lived in Japan. I attended a Japanese high school with hundreds of Japanese students. Their lives were centered around tests. They take tests comparable to the ACT to get into high school. Imagine that stress on a 13-year-old child. In high school, they go to school until dinner time every day, even on Saturday, and in many places, Sunday. And when they're leaving school at night, many of them spend the rest of the night at a cram school. There was no such thing as Friday night. These kids are getting their childhood stomped out of them. I love Japan more than any other place, but I could not live there long term because I will not let my kids go through that school system. We can't do this in America. We can't let our tests take over our lives, because even though we don't spend all our time focused on tests, our test-focused model of education still has some serious problems that may sabotage the whole purpose of education. A lot of the information learned for tests are memorized the night before. According to Rodi Rodiger, a research psychologist from the University of Washington, almost 35% of information memorized once is not remembered after 1 week. Now imagine 5 years. And educator Guido Sarsi speaks about his 5-minute university, where he can teach you in 5 minutes everything that a graduate remembers 5 years after graduating from college. We forget outrageous amounts of information learned for tests. Another problem with our tests is that most of the information we are learning is not as useful as it might appear, because a lot of that information is information that a robot could learn. 50 years ago, a huge number of Americans worked in factories, but now machines have taken over that role. In America, our economy and technology are growing at such rapid rates, we don't know what the workforce will look like 30 years down the road. An engineer student can't just memorize the answers in his textbook. Even though this may be essential to have basic cultural literacy, and we must know some facts before we can think critically, but an engineer needs to learn how to create things that have never been created before. We live in the 21st century. We have to be creative. We have to think outside the box, because there's going to be problems that need to be solved that have never been seen before. So because our tests are like this, can we really let so much of our lives depend on tests? Our society has set up a system of tests, but does that mean that success on tests means success at life? Studies have found that test scores do not determine how well someone does in the workforce. Employers are starting to realize that looking at test scores is not the way to guarantee a good employee. People are realizing that there is much more to learning. So next time the screen at the testing center makes you question your value, you might think it's the end of the world, but remember that it's not, and that tests don't determine everything.